In one of the old barns on the farm, there is a pantry cupboard that my grandmother used. It has a fold-down door with a work surface inside, but it's covered in old paint and broken in places. My plan for this old cupboard is to strip it down completely if I can, just take off all the paint, and maybe if it comes apart easily, take it into pieces so that I can mend everything and put it back together really nicely. It's got these interesting little old fittings and I would really like to keep them. Same for these hinges and little door clasps. To loosen the paint and remove the screws, I use some paint stripper. I took off all the metal parts and also the enamel work surface. I used a wire brush to scrub away most of the paint from the metal pieces. Looking at this, I think under the paint there's some varnish, and it seems like the paint isn't that well stuck, so I'm gonna just try scraping off as much as I can to begin with. Okay, well the good news is this works, it's pretty effective. The bad news is it's really tiring. So yesterday I scraped off the paint from the front and the outside, and now I need to tackle what's going on the inside. I'm going to try and remove as much of this varnish as I can to get it back to the bare wood and see if that might look nice. I found this piece inside that says 1950, so I imagine that was when it was made, which is actually a bit older than I was thinking. So here I've got all the metal pieces. The paint stripper took off most of the old paint. They all need some further cleaning to get off the rust. There's quite a lot of rust on there. The cupboard doors need the paint removing from them. Also, this drawer probably does need some mending. It's not looking the best. The board in the bottom is like delaminating, so I might need to replace that. Hygiena maybe is the brand of this. Spend ages scraping the paint away using a blunt old chisel. The thing about this is that sometimes the paint comes off really easily, but that's because of the varnish. Like this door, I can tell, has much more varnish left on it than these, and while that makes it easy to strip off the paint, it just means I'm gonna have to do a lot more to get rid of the varnish afterwards. So I will probably just have to sand these down. Okay, I've had this metal hardware soaking in some vinegar for a couple of days, and I'm now gonna just try and give it a clean. The vinegar soak worked really well on the brass pieces. The before and after is really clear on these door catches. This cupboard is looking quite rickety, and actually some bits of it are already coming apart. So I'm actually thinking I'm just going to take it to pieces and then sand it down, mend it up, and put it back together. On the back here, it's got this like kind of board, thin wooden board that seems to be warped, and I'm wondering if I should just replace this. Okay, I've got this cupboard mostly into pieces now, which means I can much more easily take the paint off all these little bits and then just mend it up and put it back together. I also removed the paint from the inside areas of the cupboard. So I've managed to remove all the paint from the pieces of this cupboard now. There is still quite a bit of this very old yellowed varnish that I would like to remove, and I think I might try some paint stripper before I try sanding it, just to get off as much of this sticky old varnish as possible. I have stripped off as much of the varnish from this as I can. It's looking okay, but there's a few areas that I think I need to still sand to try and just take off the last bit. Some parts of the wood frame had come loose, so I found a modern version of this corrugated fastening used in other parts of the cupboard. Okay, I finished sanding this cupboard. I've sanded it so much and I cannot bear to do any more, so it's time now to put it back together. I also ordered a new piece of plywood for the back, so I need to cut that to the right size. I also replaced the plywood on top of the cupboard and cleaned up the brass screw cups using vinegar. I'm going to reuse these old screws that I cleaned up, but I'm going to put new screws into these bigger screw cups because these are actually, for some reason, now too small and they just go through. Maybe because these got bent when I removed them. I took the base pieces out of this drawer because they were looking really gross and the ply was delaminating. So I've cut some new pieces and I'm going to put them in now, hopefully, if I can remember how it goes together. Okay, the other thing that's pretty cool about this cabinet is that this thing, which is like the enamel work surface, is actually in pretty good condition. Like normally old enamel is just chipped and rusted. So there are some scratches on this from use, but they're not so deep that they break the enamel. It's just along the edge here where it's a tiny bit rusted. I used some wire wool to clean off this rust and painted the edges with enamel paint. Okay, I've honestly been debating whether to put this weird half shelf back or not. It was originally like this, but it's such an odd shelf. I don't know why it's like broken into these three pieces and it's just not very sturdy. So I think I will put it back for now because it's the thing that has 1950 written on it, which is kind of cool. But I'm honestly not sure what this is about. I feel like it might be something to do with this strange thing that went up here. It has these runner things, so possibly there was something in there that slid out, but why you would need something below made like that shelf, I am not sure. It's just so strange because I can't believe you could put anything on it that it would hold. It just is so weak and flimsy. Okay, so since I pinned this in from the back with panel pins, it's actually a lot stronger, but I still don't know what it's for and why it has this section which is made of different pieces of wood. So I finished cleaning all the little metal pieces, like the handles, clasps. Some of them look really nice, like these things are solid brass, I think, and they look great. These bits, which are the things they hook onto, are also brass, but they are looking kind of pink. And I read online that this is copper, and if you put it in some chemicals, you can actually remove that excess copper and make it more of a classic brass colour. So I'm going to try this. I've never done it before, but I've got 3% hydrogen peroxide and sodium bisulfate. And after I've put them in that, I have to neutralise it in bicarbonate of soda. So I'm going to have a go and see if it does anything. I guess this isn't essential, it doesn't matter if this doesn't work, but I just thought I'd have a go and see if I could learn something new. Oh, maybe it's working. Okay, well, it worked, which is really exciting. This one is looking so much golder and brassier than this one. So the enamel paint on the edges of this has dried, and I think it looks really good. These are how my hinges are looking currently. They are pretty badly corroded on the surface. So I've been wondering what I can do with these hinges to make them look a bit better. I came across something which I got really excited about. I found that some people online have been putting brass onto other metals using a heat torch and a brush made of brass wire. Basically, you heat the metal and then you brush it with the drill with this, and some of this brass actually melts onto the surface of your piece of metal, and the results people got looked really good. I haven't got a propane torch. I borrowed this catering torch from the pub that I work at. So first I need to really clean these down. I'm going to use the regular wire brush on the angle grinder. Okay, I am extremely excited about this, but I also have no idea if it's going to work. I think something's happening. Ooh. Oh my goodness, it's working. This is so exciting. Oh wow. I reattached all the hinges and door catches. The cupboard was really heavy once it was all put back together. Okay, I'm so happy with this cupboard. I love it. I think it's beautiful and everything works. These little things close and these things twiddle. I am so happy. It's taken so long, like much longer than I thought, but I'm really pleased with how it looks. Yeah, I can't wait to use it for things. At the moment, it's mainly just for storing stuff. So in the top up here, I've put my Weck jar canned fruit, like my apples and plums. And inside this section, I've put my dried teas, all my mint tea, also my apple slices that I dehydrated, and some bowls and plates. And in the bottom here, I've got more canned apple, the damson jam I made, and the canned ginger pears, as well as some of my dried seaweed and dried mushrooms and other foraged foods. I left the wood completely bare. At some point, I might put something on it to protect it, but right now, I didn't want to spoil it because I love the look of the bright, light, sanded oak. I am so happy with this project.